Yeah, I didn't think much of it at the time, to be honest with you. I don't think Luka did either.
JJ Redick did his best to brush off that heated sideline exchange with his star guard, but Austin Reaves completely rejected that narrative. Normally, Reaves stays completely out of the messy stuff, yet he refuses to bite his tongue whenever a boundary gets crossed. Everyone watching is demanding the exact same answer right now. Did Luka take things way past the limit? We are going to break down this viral sideline meltdown. Basketball fans know all about those rare sequences that instantly force you to jump off the sofa and snatch up your cell phone. You desperately start messaging every single person in your contacts. The broadcast lens somehow captures an interaction so real and intensely charged. Before you know it, the clip is dominating every platform out there. X, Instagram feeds, text threads, local barbershops, and sports podcasts are all talking about it. That exact scenario unfolded right inside the Chase Center over in San Francisco on the evening of Saturday, March 2nd, 2026. The whole Hoops community watched it go down live. Los Angeles was absolutely taking the Golden State Warriors to the woodshed. We are looking at a massive 129-101 beatdown. You would normally assume a totally drama-free finish for a matchup this insanely uncompetitive. However, the purple and gold always operate under totally different rules. Chaos naturally gravitates toward this franchise regardless of the scoreboard. Tension eventually crept right over to the team bench during this specific game, erupting into a furious verbal back and forth. Head coach JJ Redick and franchise superstar Luka Dončić were the two guys going at it. You really need to dial it back to the opening period to grasp the full context. Los Angeles was completely cruising at this point. Things appeared flawless until a specific chain of plays lit a very slow fuse of annoyance. Gabe Vincent ended up blowing a totally uncontested look right at the rim with roughly 3 minutes remaining in the first frame. Max Christie completely saved the possession by grabbing the offensive board and finishing the putback. You can notice something brewing while that play is developing. You can spot Luka out on the floor, visibly griping about something to his team. He could be upset over floor spacing or the actual play design itself. The irritation was obviously bubbling up no matter what the actual reason was. Things then escalated further on the ensuing trip down the floor. Luka made a decision that absolutely sent his head coach through the roof. He jacked up a heavily guarded jumper and completely bricked it. Nobody is denying that this guy is arguably the most gifted scorer currently walking the planet. He can easily get buckets from any spot on the hardwood, yet true superstars still need to understand shot selection. Chucking a heavily defended triple while your squad is already blowing the other team out will drive any coaching staff absolutely crazy. The bad body language carried right over to the other end of the court. Luka totally missed a defensive assignment by not talking through a screening action. Jackson Hayes was left completely out to dry on the play. Every basketball fan knows exactly what results from a blown defensive rotation. An opposing shooter gets an incredibly clean look at the basket. Gary Payton II was the lucky guy waiting on the perimeter for Golden State. He calmly drained the uncontested look from beyond the arc. A total lack of talking directly resulted in a massive defensive error. The head coach decided he was completely done watching this happen. The clock showed only 56 seconds left before the second quarter. Redick officially pulled the trigger right then and there. He called over to the scorer's table to swap out Luka Dončić for LeBron James. Inside sources claim the star guard saw the sub coming and actively begged his coach to stay out there. The first period was basically over anyway with less than a minute on the clock. Redick completely ignored the request to finish out the frame. The coach allegedly fired back that playing time must be earned on the floor. That single comment is what ignited the massive explosion on the sidelines. Broadcast lenses zoomed right in as the furious superstar made his way off the hardwood. LeBron James offered a quick supportive bump to the chest while checking into the game. The frustrated guard was way too angry to even notice his teammate. He completely blew past his coach while actively ignoring an offered handshake. Anyone who has ever laced up a pair of sneakers understands the intense disrespect behind ignoring a coach like that. The head coach aggressively trailed his player all the way to the folding chairs. A brutal shouting match instantly kicked off the second Luka took his seat. You can clearly see LeBron attempting to show some love during the substitution. The star guard completely ignored the gesture. Redick then pursues him aggressively down the sideline. NBA legend Joe Johnson decided to drop his own thoughts on this exact exchange. ISO Joe offered a brilliant breakdown of the footage during a recent episode of the Nightcap podcast. His perspective holds serious weight since he experienced this exact locker room dynamic. Having spent time in the trenches with Redick gives him unique insight into his coaching style. He described his former teammate as incredibly strict. The guy does not mince words, yet he absolutely holds on to grudges. That exact stubborn trait was put on full display just moments later. Pay close attention to the sequence right after the coach finishes tearing into his player on the sidelines. The superstar finally extends his arm to make peace with a handshake. Redick straight up refuses to acknowledge the gesture. The coach quickly pivots and marches right back to the game. Keep your eyes peeled right after the verbal lashing finishes. The guard sticks his hand out to smooth things over. The head coach simply leaves him completely hanging in front of the entire arena. That right there is the exact second the internet completely lost its mind. Mainly because Luka Dončić, a full-grown adult, and a guy who has been right in the MVP conversation, is easily among the most accomplished young stars this league has ever seen. And he clearly was not cool with getting completely ignored like that. He jumped straight off the pine and immediately started barking at Redick. Almost instantly, the amateur lip readers of social media got straight to business breaking down those trending videos, and their translations took over the web in a flash. If you go by the most popular breakdowns online, here is how that entire exchange supposedly went down. Redick leans into his star player and demands to know what his problem is, claiming the guard swatted his hand to the side and asking why he is so tilted. From his seat on the bench, Luka totally denies it, which leads to Redick telling him to sit his butt down. Luka springs to his feet, completely mind-blown, yelling right back at his coach. Right at that exact second, right when this whole situation was about to turn into a massive national television disaster, somebody completely unexpected stepped up to save the day. Backup forward Jarred Vanderbilt was right there on the sideline, got up from his chair, started clapping to change the energy. The head coach like an absolute wall of positivity. Vando told his teammate to grab a seat, and eventually the superstar listened. Just keep your eyes on Vanderbilt here. Vando is the guy who really sparked that whole de-escalation. You see what I mean? That was just an awesome veteran move. However, when you look at the public relations side of things, the damage was already firmly in place. That footage was everywhere. We are talking millions of plays, countless hot takes, and every single person had an opinion on that heated exchange between the face of the Lakers and his brand new head coach. Everyone was basically asking the exact same thing. Do we have a massive crisis brewing out in Los Angeles? What are the inside sources actually hearing about this? Let us be real here. Anytime a video blows up like that and millions of fans watch a franchise guy screaming at his coach, right in the middle of a live basketball game, the sports media world is going to completely lose its mind. Every single journalist with locker room access, every talking head on television, and every retired hooper with a mic is rushing to uncover the actual truth. Less than 24 hours after it happened, the reactions were flooding in from every single part of the basketball community. The biggest and most crucial perspective obviously came from JJ Redick. Leading up to their game against the New Orleans Pelicans on March 3rd, the coach faced the media and dealt with the questions using this incredibly relaxed, steady demeanor that just proves he has spent his whole career operating under massive pressure. He casually mentioned that he really did not read too deeply into the moment as it was happening. He also guessed that Luka probably felt the exact same way. He made sure to emphasize how strong their connection is and how much he appreciates that bond. The coach definitely kept going from there. He elaborated further, breaking down how these intense little flare-ups are just a normal piece of the pro hoops environment. You get that constant back and forth and that fierce competitive spirit flaring up between guys and their coaching staff because everybody just wants to win. He pointed out that while it might not happen every single night, this stuff is actually super common in the league. He explained that occasionally you end up having to talk it out with your guy later on. Sometimes those battles happen right between teammates on the floor, but the absolute best part of the interview was right here. This is the moment where JJ essentially stared right down the lens and demanded that the whole hoops community take a chill pill. He called it a pure competitive moment where two dudes are simply doing whatever it takes to secure a victory and figuring out how to get on the same exact wavelength, following that up with this completely authentic look of confusion that you really cannot act out. Redick dropped a quote that perfectly sums up how crazy today's news cycle has gotten. He explained that he actually wants his roster communicating openly with him and his staff, letting the bench know exactly what they are feeling on the court. Redick went on to mention that he and his star player had already discussed the incident and literally just joked around about the whole deal. He stated clearly that they had a chat about the blow-up and simply chuckled it off together. During another press availability, the head coach opened up about his follow-up chat with Dončić regarding that crazy highlight. He told reporters that he felt absolutely zero bad blood and noted that his player felt exactly the same way, not caring about it at all. It was just one of those things where you react in the moment and immediately get over it. Honestly, that explanation should have completely killed the narrative. Two adults, a coach and his star, publicly agreeing that there is absolutely zero drama or hidden anger brewing behind the scenes. However, we are dealing with the Lakers here. Things never just fade away quietly out in Hollywood. Dave McMenamin from ESPN, who is easily one of the most connected insiders covering this franchise, dug a little deeper into the drama. Over on NBA Today, he mentioned that he tapped into several different connections, both inside the organization and across the association, and they all echoed the exact same sentiment. The whole thing was completely exaggerated. One insider really hit the nail on the head, pointing out that whenever you play in LA, the tiniest little speed bump gets treated like a massive earthquake, simply because of how closely the media scrutinizes this specific franchise. Somebody tight with Dončić made sure to point out that the player and his coach have actually been super close for almost 10 whole years, and that both of these guys are fiercely competitive. You have two fiercely competitive guys challenging one another, which is honestly the exact dynamic you hope for between a coach and a player. Plus, an inside source from the franchise dropped some vital context that everybody completely glossed over while rushing to label the Lakers a total disaster. Los Angeles had just dropped 3 straight games. Tensions were understandably through the roof at that point. As that insider rightfully noted, try finding a single superstar in the association who stays perfectly happy while losing 3 games in a row. Good luck, because that guy does not exist. That is when Rich Paul entered the chat. For anyone out of the loop, he is the mastermind who founded Clutch Sports Group. He also happens to be one of the most influential agents in the entire sports universe. The man represents LeBron James and holds serious ties. Those ties run incredibly deep throughout the Lakers front office. So whenever he drops an opinion on anything involving Los Angeles, everybody pays close attention. Those kinds of interactions actually build a much stronger bond, mainly because it shows massive respect for the athlete. Likewise, you need that same level of deep respect for the guy holding the clipboard. Paul did not just brush off the entire sideline situation, he totally spun the storyline around. He painted their back and forth as clear proof of pure passion and a real commitment to securing victories. He believes it ultimately creates a way healthier connection down the line. Having hung around plenty of coaching staffs, he has watched them push their biggest stars time and time again. After that, Paul completely shut down all the drama rumors by framing the entire mess through a historical lens. That is exactly what happens when things pop off in such a wildly hyper-focused media landscape. Everyone immediately starts hunting for maximum drama. However, not every single person was willing to just move on so fast. Former pro hooper Al Harrington hopped on FS1 first things first and brought a completely different angle to the discussion. He refused to just brush it off as a meaningless blip. In his eyes, they simply do not look like title contenders on the floor. The Rock is not popping around like it should for a squad chasing a ring. Harrington admitted that literally every single locker room deals with some level of messiness. Still, he strongly believed that the core issues in Los Angeles went way beyond one little argument on the bench. You can basically sense right from opening night exactly how your campaign is going to unfold. And honestly, looking at Los Angeles from day one, it just never really gave off those elite title-winning vibes. Then we got the absolute most hilarious aftermath of this entire storyline, because Luka Dončić is an absolute menace of a troll. He jokingly acted like he was stepping to Redick during a later matchup, totally faking a meltdown just to see if Vanderbilt would actually leap up and play Peacemaker a second time. That goofy stunt basically proved what all the inside reporters were already claiming. The whole situation was never that deep. Those dudes were totally solid. Social media just completely overreacted to a highly competitive spark between two guys who just love hoops. Now, let us dive into the big three and what is actually on the line right now. Because that bench argument actually drags something major out into the light, and it has absolutely nothing to do with how Luka and JJ Redick feel about each other. What that brief flash of anger truly highlighted was a vastly larger and far more complicated puzzle. It is the exact same headache Los Angeles has battled since tip-off. How in the world do you actually build a functional big three with Luka Dončić, LeBron James, and Austin Reaves? Because while everyone basically agrees that the bench spat was massively hyped up, you absolutely cannot ignore the very real red flags. Fans are rightfully asking if these three elite talents can actually share the hardwood and generate elite title-winning hoops. And honestly, the stats for the majority of this campaign are downright terrifying. During the initial stretch of about 152 to 200 minutes, whenever Luka, LeBron, and Austin shared the court, the Lakers logged a net rating hovering around 7.8 to 9.8. That is calculated per 100 possessions. Just to give you an idea of how bad that is, those numbers sit below some of the absolute worst squads in the entire league. Their offensive rating floated right between 106 and 111, which basically drops them straight to the bottom tier of the association. And do not even get me started on the defensive side of the ball. We are looking at a brutal 115 to 121 rating during their ugliest slumps. Over on First Take, Jason delivered arguably the most savage breakdown of the whole mess, and it only hurt because he was spot on. He pointed out that the glaring flaw holding back this Los Angeles offense whenever all three stars are out there boils down entirely to catch-and-shoot execution. He then broke down exactly why their perimeter shooting has become such a massive roadblock for this specific group. Simply put, neither LeBron nor Luka have hit their marks as catch-and-shoot threats so far this campaign, which honestly is super unfortunate considering that specific skill is exactly what holds this entire system together. Whenever you throw three incredibly ball-dominant guys into the exact same lineup, the scoring engine only keeps humming under one condition. The two dudes without the rock simply have to make the defense pay by knocking down catch-and-shoot jumpers. Unfortunately, LeBron and Luka have both been incredibly cold from those spots all year long. On top of that, their lack of size is just as big of a headache, especially with LeBron turning 41. Because you have Luka running point and Austin Reaves operating on the wing, Los Angeles is getting completely bullied on the defensive end. We are literally watching Austin Reaves get stuck checking physical monsters like Zion Williamson, facing a brutal 90-pound weight difference. Reporters eventually asked about that exact situation. When discussing the play, Reaves kept it completely real and funny. He flat out said, "You cannot be afraid to move aside." He joked about being absolutely petrified during the first half of the game. He openly admitted that there was zero chance he was stepping up to take a charge. Now this is where things shift and give the purple and gold faithful a legitimate reason for hope. Ever since the All-Star break wrapped up, having those three stars healthy and sharing the floor has completely turned the stats upside down. Over their past 7 matchups, which comes out to roughly 142 minutes of shared floor time, this big three racked up an offensive rating of 110.7. They also locked in a defensive rating of 101 and a positive net rating of 9.7. That is a total 180-degree turnaround from their early struggles. These are not just empty stats against bottom-tier squads. The coaching staff made actual, concrete changes to spark this massive surge. Head coach JJ Redick opened up about the individual sacrifices happening behind the scenes. He noted that the real test comes when all the stars share the floor at the exact same time. Since every single one of them wants the rock in their hands, Redick explained the tough reality of the situation. Certain guys simply have to give up some touches. Someone always has to step back and sacrifice for the squad. We have actually seen Luka drop his usage rate down to 33.9%. Reaves has lowered his share to 22.4%. Meanwhile, LeBron is currently playing with the lowest usage rate of his entire career. Every guy on the roster is sacrificing personal stats to help the team win. The coaching staff is also pulling the right strings to make it happen. They started bringing in Marcus Smart to boost the perimeter defense. They also rolled out some incredibly effective zone coverages. The coaches are staggering the rotations perfectly so that every star gets a chance to lead the offense alongside the bench guys. Reporters asked Luka about the trio building chemistry for what seemed like the millionth time, and his response was incredibly blunt but clearly a bit tired. He plainly stated that the whole experiment is still an ongoing project that needs a lot more time. He pointed out that they desperately needed more reps in practice. However, he does feel like the group is definitely finding its groove, but casting a shadow over this entire Big Three project, the bench arguments, and the tactical tweaks is the massive uncertainty of the upcoming offseason. Austin Reaves is right on the verge of qualifying for a massive $241 million Supermax deal to stay in Los Angeles. He passed on an $89.2 million contract this past June to bet on his own talent, and that gamble is paying off big time. Both his agent Aaron Riley and the front office know exactly where things stand. Reaves loves Los Angeles, and the franchise desperately wants him around long term. The only major catch is that the final dollar amount is going to be incredibly steep. Then you have LeBron James playing his 23rd season at 41 years old, currently riding out a $52.6 million player option he opted into. The King is set to hit unrestricted free agency this summer, and he has kept his cards extremely close to his chest regarding his next move. During the All-Star Weekend media availability, LeBron brushed off the retirement questions by saying he just wants to enjoy life and will announce his plans whenever he finally makes up his mind. Whispers of a Cleveland Cavaliers reunion are catching fire right now. Brian Windhorst over at ESPN mentioned a real possibility of LeBron heading back to Ohio if he is willing to take a heavy discount. Donovan Mitchell even went on the record saying it would be absolutely incredible to see LeBron return to his roots. That scenario would deliver a fairy tale finish that even the best movie script could not match. However, we need to focus on the immediate future. Right now, Los Angeles holds a record of 37 wins and 24 losses, sitting at the 6th seed in the Wild Western Conference. That heated sideline argument between Luka and JJ Redick was not proof of a collapsing locker room. It actually showed a squad that is intensely obsessed with getting victories. Sometimes that competitive fire just erupts on national television, letting the cameras catch it and the internet blow it out of proportion. Reports indicate that both Reaves and Dončić are pushing hard for LeBron to run it back for one more year. The off-court friendships are completely genuine. Their drive to win is entirely authentic. And those gradual, sometimes messy steps forward on the court are absolutely legitimate. This Los Angeles superstar trio has its flaws and might always be a bit clunky. Yet, when asked about which rotations click the most, Austin Reaves kept his perspective simple. He made it clear that handling rotations is above his pay grade. He believes the players just need to show up, battle hard, and put their egos aside. They have to trust that the daily grind will result in championship success. He humbly brushed off the lineup questions by saying it was not his place to speak on it. Reaves stated that the coaching staff handles the chess moves. The guys on the floor just execute whatever game plan is drawn up. Frankly, that response is the ultimate textbook Austin Reaves quote you will ever hear. He brings zero drama and makes zero excuses. Just throwing him into the mix to hoop is the exact vibe this roster requires. That unselfish mindset is exactly what can power them deep into the postseason. It is also the kind of attitude that will quickly make fans stop caring about a viral 12-second video from a blowout victory over the Golden State Warriors. Make sure to drop a like on this video, tap the cards popping up on your screen right now to catch our next breakdown.